We are live. Okay, looks like I'm live. Looks like I'm live on YouTube. I'm just kind of hanging out while my son is napping. Trying to pull up analytics on YouTube here. Not that it really matters. Just like kind of being able to see. It's not even really in real time, but it is interesting to see what stats YouTube pulls up. Wish I could minimize. Some of this stuff. All right. Well, I'm just kind of hanging out. It's my son's nap time right now, and thought I'd start using this time to just kind of stream and hang out online, see if there's any sort of community that could be built here. I thought my son was gonna wake up like 30 minutes ago. He was rolling around. I was like, crap. He's gonna take somewhat of a crap nap. He'd only been sleeping for like an hour and a half, and luckily settled himself back down, and seems like he's back out. So that's good. But I don't know. Just wanted to kind of hop in and talk. Been watching. There's a lot of really good shows on right now that I've been enjoying. My wife and I watched the finale of The Last of Us last night, and it was fantastic. I've really enjoyed that whole first season. I never played the game or anything, but um, the Last of Us season finale, um, it did not disappoint. It's definitely it definitely didn't disappoint, and I was really enjoyed it. Like I said, hadn't played the game, so I didn't know kind of how the season was supposed to end or what was kind of how the game ended, I guess is what I should say. But I try to kind of avoid spoilers in general, but especially with this show, just because it would have been very easy for there to be a lot of different spoilers out there because it's essentially already been written. But it was interesting. It was kind of I can't talk. There was a lot of parallels between watching this TV show or a movie based on a book and watching the TV show or a movie based on a video game. I think there was definitely a crowd of people that was, the game is better than the TV show or whatever. But I just really enjoyed it. Thought it was a really, really good show. I think Bella Ramsey as Ellie was phenomenal. I was listening to the official HBO Last of Us podcast, who it's hosted by Troy Baker, who's the voice of Joel in the game, and then Neil Druckmann, the creators, and Craig Mazin, are on the show with him as well every week, and they do a really, really good job. And it's interesting to hear their perspective on things. Is kind of one being kind of one of the creators of the game, and one being a writer who was able to help adapt the game itself. And so I think, obviously Neil Druckmann being kind of one of the game creators, and Craig Mazin, who every time I hear his voice, all I can hear is his role that he plays in Mythic Quest. I can't remember. He's a writer on Mythic Quest, but I can't remember the name. What's his name? Lou. He plays like this creepy guy in Mythic Quest, and so all I can hear on the podcast when he's talking is that character. He plays like a quality assurance tester, and is not really the nicest guy. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see him as a writer more so than just an actor, especially because he tends to play, I guess, smaller roles because he is primarily a writer. So getting over that, a little bit of a hump of him as a writer and not, or as a storyteller, really more than just a kind of an actor. But I really can't. Bella Ramsey really was just kind of fantastic the whole season. I've become a big fan of her. I never watched Game of Thrones or had seen her in anything else, but so this was kind of my first time experiencing her as an actress, and she really was just outstanding, kind of from start to finish. Pedro Pascal, I think he's having a bit of a moment the last few years since the rise of the Mandalorian and other things like that. He's obviously, that's not the first things that he's been in, but it has been interesting as he's gotten kind of some of these bigger roles, and seeing everybody kind of get to fall in love with him as the Mandalorian, as Mando, and now as Joel in The Last of Us. And so I've really become a big fan of his, and want to dig into some of his old stuff. But it's I think the finale was really good in the sense that it's from what I have now learned about it after the fact, as I kind of have listened to the podcast and just kind of looked into things after I actually watched it. It seems like the final scene of the finale was kind of shot for shot, or at least the final couple, the dialogue between Joel and Ellie at that point was kind of shot for shot for what it was in the game. And moments like that, I think it's really cool because there is a certain level of homage that you pay to a game or to the the basis of the story, whether it's a game or a book or whatever. So I think it's important to carry a lot of those on and kind of have respect for the original art or the original piece of work. But obviously you don't want it to be shot for shot the whole time. A lot of those things, it can't, it won't work that way. Some things don't portray on screens as well as they do in a video game or vice versa. So I think the writers and directors were really intentional about what they kind of remixed to a degree, and didn't do just shot for shot from the game. And then the moments that some were a little bit, the important moments, and some of those that were the key pivotal moments, such as the season finale, the last scene in the season finale, that I'm really glad that they kind of kept intact. And again, just like I didn't play the game, but going back and kind of playing a bit of catch up to some of the elements of the game that they portrayed almost shot for shot in the TV show. They were just really thoughtful, and I just think that the writers, directors, all the that whole crew just really did a great job, and it's why the show was fantastic. I really loved the whole season. Season 2 is gonna be very interesting. I think they left season 1 on enough of a cliffhanger to get you excited about season 2, but answered enough questions to kind of give you a little bit of closure of season 1. I think they were really smart and did a really good job of using the cold opening to answer some questions kind of as they would go, whether it be using it as a flashback, and like they did in this finale episode where it was Ellie's mom giving birth to her, and it kind of explains why Ellie is immune and why it's probably a unique situation and not something that can be easily repeated. So it gives you information into that, and then as the intro comes in and the show begins, then you're back into the present time and the story continues. But I think they did that multiple times. Episode 3 was obviously a one-off in that it was a complete diversion from kind of the main story. Well, I guess there were a couple episodes like that. The one where Ellie is with her friend in the mall is also kind of a one-off, but answers a ton of questions and gives you a lot of insight to why Ellie is the way she is, and how kind of just her background story and what it was like before kind of she met Joel, and they went on this adventure. So I think those are really smart, just storytelling tactics and methods, and just ways to better tell the story. I just really like using different tools and different ways to portray that message, whether it's and every episode not just being the same, where it's, you have the opening and then after the intro you're in the story and all that kind of stuff. They mixed it up and they used different techniques to just keep you on your toes while still answering enough of the questions and presenting new questions as it moved on. So it's always cool to see writers and directors that are intentional with those kind of things and aren't just, it's not cookie cutter. It's not just kind of, one after the next and let's just kind of keep it going. They were very, very intentional with those things. So I don't know. I really, really liked The Last of Us. I was very, very excited every week to see this. It's one of, I feel like in the era of streaming and all these things, there's not as much appointment viewing, and it's not as easy to just like get excited about some stuff. So this is one of those shows that has gotten me very excited, and I'm bummed that it's over, but I'm very glad that it's already been renewed for season 2 and almost kind of season 3 to a degree, just based on the creators and the writers and everybody saying that essentially part 2 of the game is going to be broken up into multiple seasons. So I can't imagine that HBO signed on for just half of part 2 of the game, which would kind of be season 2, without finishing that off. I just don't see a way where this show doesn't go at least 3 seasons, completing out the end of part 2 of the game, it being broken into 2 parts itself, a season 2 and a season 3, which I think there's a lot of parallels. And I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but I see a lot of parallels in Game of Thrones just from a structure standpoint. I don't know anything about the story, but I know that the first however many seasons of Game of Thrones were based on the book, and then after the book series, and then after that they began to divert, and then it was all kind of an original story from there. So part of me wonders if, and again, I do think that the writers and the creators of the game have probably had these discussions with HBO kind of in the long term, and I think there's a lot of turmoil and things happening at HBO and Warner that are going to happen over the next year that could dictate some of this stuff, in terms of the merger with Discovery and rebranding. They've been getting rid of a lot of shows, Westworld and others. So that'll be interesting to kind of see where The Last of Us falls in. But I do think, I think the fandom has definitely been, has exceeded their expectations and made it so that they are confident that it can, do well and succeed moving forward. So I would be very bummed if this was one of the shows that over the next couple of years got the axe, but it just seems pretty unlikely. So hopefully this can be kind of one of their anchors as they continue forward and, be kind of the bell cow. I do think if it's going to go past 3 seasons, they're going to have it's going to have an original story, and any, post-apocalyptic type of stories like this, I think they run risk of getting too outlandish and just wildly unrealistic if you push it past, I don't even know necessarily how to word it, but if you push it past the extent, if it's based on a separate story, like this is a game or a book or whatever, if it's based on that, once you push it past the original story, it gets really dicey in terms of expanding that. Are you writing more seasons just to have more seasons, or can you actually progress the story and make it better, or continue the quality without it degrading and people losing interest? So I think I think The Office is a show that probably could have ended a season or two early, but kept going because people wanted to keep watching it, which is fair from a network perspective. I do think it's very different in HBO's perspective, where they stand than it is a network show. They got a lot more freedom there, but I think that I get very sad when I see really good shows drag it out just for the sake of continuing. So that I think there was one that ended, or maybe I think this upcoming season of Ted Lasso, I think, is said to be the last one, and I think that is, I think that's really smart. I think that it's smart to have, to, going into the creation of that show. I'd imagine they were like, it's going to be 3 seasons or 4, whatever, season 4, whatever. But I don't know. I don't know that many shows do that, which I think it's problematic as time goes. So I'm glad that some shows do that, and it doesn't kind of ruin the viewer's idea of what that show was, where anytime they think of it, they're like, oh, well, the first 4 seasons were great, but man, seasons 5 through 7 were terrible. So I think that's another thing that's gotten me excited. It's Ted Lasso coming back, obviously. I think I don't know that it's quite discussed, not discussed. That's I hate when people talk about, oh, I don't know if it's discussed enough. There's 8 billion people in the world. Somebody's talking about it. It's just, maybe we're not looking in the right spot. So maybe I'm not looking in the right spot for who's discussing what. But Apple TV Plus has come out with some bangers lately. Some of the shows that I've been watching have been Apple TV Plus. Some of the best shows that I've been watching lately. Have been getting really excited every time there's a new episode of Shrinking. Been really enjoying Shrinking. Killer cast, obviously Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. They're awesome. Christina Miller, big fan of her. Jessica Williams is hilarious. This dude, what's his name? Luke Tenney has been great. The whole cast is killer. I've enjoyed every episode. I think you don't necessarily have to have expectations going into it. It's a show about a guy who his wife recently passed away, and he is a therapist, and he's figuring out how to live life with his teenage daughter and what that looks like, and is struggling as I think a lot of us would be. I think, there it is in the description: struggling with the grieving loss of his wife while being a dad, friend, and therapist. The first episode, it starts out, he's going wild, all these, girls drinking way too much, all those kind of things. But the story really becomes, the relationship between the practice of therapists that they have. It's Jason Segel, it's Jessica Williams, and Harrison Ford are 3 therapists. Harrison Ford's character, Dr. Paul Rhodes, being kind of the main guy, and their relationship is very much like a family, and they all are intertwined in their lives in various ways, and they're obviously are coworkers. But Gabby, Jessica Williams' character, was best friends with Jason Segel, his character, his wife, before she had passed. So it's just a really, really good show. It'll make you feel good, it'll make you laugh. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I think it's one of the shows that on Apple TV Plus that's just really been great. And I think that they've got a lot of shows like that have been really good that I've been a little surprised on. And as I think back to the shows that I've enjoyed the most over the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, I guess, really since the pandemic, when I guess that's right around the time Apple TV Plus launched, was during the pandemic. And I think they launched with, The Morning Show and For All Mankind and See and some of those big shows. But I think over the last year or so, they've kind of figured out what their lane is, and the quality of their TV shows has gotten very much like kind of early day HBO. Like everything is it's very very high quality, but there are such different and unique stories that are just kind of all over the spectrum. And I've Severance is maybe the best show I've seen in quite some time. I cannot wait for season 2 of that show to come out, and every person over the last year that has asked what show they should watch next, I say, have you seen Severance? Because it is fantastic. The morning show, I think is great. I think season 1 was really good. I'm interested to kind of see where they go after what happened in season 2, but I really, Reese Witherspoon and can't think of her name, Jennifer Aniston. I mean, they're fantastic. If Steve Carell comes back in any way or any capacity, that'd be great. But I think those two are going to kind of be driving the show moving forward, obviously. But I really need to catch up on For All Mankind. My wife and I kind of dropped off. She lost interest, but I still really want to watch it, and I've heard a lot of really good things about the latest season. I think it's one of the most interesting concept shows of recent history. Just the basic premise of we didn't win the race to space, China beat us, and then the race actually continues. Because I think once we got to the moon in the late '60s, after kind of the early '70s, that all the interest in space kind of waned, and that's a big bummer. I think space is the most fascinating thing in, well, can't really say in the world, but I think things outside of this world are incredibly fascinating, and I think we wasted a couple of decades not exploring what we could have, and I think this show does a really good job kind of exploring what it could have looked like, with actually being kind of competitive in that space race. I think a lot of times we get caught up in we're America, we're number one, but what if we weren't in that particular time? Like, what if we lost something? And maybe sometimes it's good to lose and kind of, be humbled to a degree. So what if we had lost that, and then that hunger to explore and become, to become the best in space? What if that had continued over into, the 2000s, when we had more technology and more capabilities and things like that? I think that would have been really cool. And I'm glad that, over the last decade, a lot of that has really picked up in a very big way. But a lot of that is primarily because of privatized space exploration, SpaceX, Blue Origin, a lot of those type of companies. But that has eventually gotten NASA and kind of the government really, interested in it again. So that's great. Defending Jacob's one that I've kind of heard good things about. I'm a big fan of Mythic Quest. It's definitely not for everybody, but I love Rob McElhenney, and he's pretty great. But like, you look at all these shows on there, and even just the artwork, the casts, things like that, you're like, okay, these are legit. And I've only seen a handful of these, but I don't think any of them that I've started to watch I haven't enjoyed. Shrinking that I mentioned. Excuse me. The Shrink Next Door is another one that I want to watch. It's not getting a lot of love, but I don't know, with Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd, looks pretty good. I have to check it out, but I don't know. I think they're coming out with some really good shows and movies too. I think the Tetris movie is coming out. I think is really good. I do think the problem with Jon Stewart, I think it hasn't really done great. I don't know if I feel like these type of talk shows haven't done great outside of like cable networks. There's still, I don't know. I think there's still a lot to figure out there. Because Jon Stewart's a big draw. If he's not getting it done, then maybe it's time to rethink it. Hella Tomorrow as I've really enjoyed that show. I think I don't know. I think it's a really good show. I think the core of it is kind of a father-son story. So I don't know. I think it's incredibly fascinating the way it's shot and kind of the scenery of everything. It's set like in the '60s, but it has like there are people living on the moon. I guess it's late '60s, early '70s. Um, but the technology that they have is like they have like hover cars and video calls and things like that, but it's all in like that era of cars or TV. It's a tube TV, but you're having a video call with somebody on the other side of the world. Or a car like is in this background here, but it's a hover car. There's no tires and all those kind of things. So I think it's been a really good show. Again, I like the cast a lot. Big fan of Billy Crudup. Allison Pill, big fan of her. She's in some cool stuff. Hank Azaria. It's great. Azaria, I don't even know. Sometimes I don't know names. I'm really bad with names. But I really enjoyed the show. It's midway through season 1, but I think I'm interested to kind of see how this one ends, because there's been two or three like kind of underlying questions about the legitimacy of this business and Billy Crudup's character Jack. And last episode, some of those questions began to get answered. So I haven't heard of anybody else watching it, so I'm hoping that it doesn't get canceled after like 1 year. Because I do think, again, I'm very big on kind of the core concepts of TV shows and banking on the writers and creators doing a good job with that core concept. So I'm very much a fan of the core concept of Hello Tomorrow, and I think kind of the alternate storylines and character arcs that have built around this show have all been really good, and there are some kind of individual stories that you can attach onto and become fans of those characters. But I do think that the general underlying story of the kind of father and unknown son scamming this scam of a business, it seems like kind of it's all going to culminate in the next maybe 2 episodes kind of over this season. So I'm pretty excited to see how it ends and hopeful. I don't know if it's been renewed yet or not, but I just really have liked that one. It's not like really heavy or there's not really a ton going on. But it's really good. It's just kind of fun. Again, I really like Billy Crudup. I think, what else was he in? That Morning Show. Yeah, he plays kind of the head guy in the Morning Show. He's in a lot of good stuff. He's obviously it's not this, again, not his first rodeo. Watchmen, it's a good show too. I keep looking over here. I know my camera is there. I keep looking over here. It's where I have OBS and everything kind of set up, and all 0 viewers. Wonderful. That is exactly. Can I share this? Huh. How do? Oh yeah, I can just share it. Man, a lot of crazy stuff happened in the NFL today. Is that real? Man, computer is going slow. Trying to wear my comedy hoodie. Repping Mark Norman. Y'all need a good stand-up comedian to check out. Mark Norman is the man. Okay, so Allen Lazard headed to the Packers, just like Aaron Rodgers asked for. That's pretty funny. He puts out a list. These are the guys I want, and here they come. Share that. Find a good tweet. There is it going. Ooh, sun might be waking up. It's okay. Yep. Think my boy is waking up. Parenting's interesting. I think it's the hardest and the greatest thing I've ever done. It's like these moments where I'm like, just keep sleeping, dude. And what I would give to have somebody put me down for a nap and just be like, sleep all day. I would do it in a heartbeat. Maybe he'll settle. He woke up a little bit ago and then kind of resettled himself, and I was very proud of him. But this is let's see, how long has he been sleeping? 2.5 hours. I'll take that. There's nothing wrong with that. Before he wakes up, got some lists I've made here. Let's see, shows to watch. Have I watched any of these yet? You season 4, we started that. It's heavy. We can really only watch like one of those at a time. You can take it off. Just move it to the watch list. Yeah, he's awake. Go ahead and mark him. It's not bad. I'll take 2.5 hour nap from him any day. Better than the hour and a half he sometimes sees. Bluey recommendation. That's straight. Bluey is the greatest show on earth for kids and their parents. Let's see. While he is waking up. So far, the shows that I've watched in 2023 that I have loved are. That's a dumb way to do it. I mean, I got edit this list. I haven't updated this in a while because Last of Us is. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Actually, Last of Us is gonna go number one. The Peripheral, I loved Peripheral, but Last of Us is the best. Actually, let me just add season 1. Wait. Oh, I guess it's like that because there only is one season so far. Either way, Last of Us is the best show I've seen of 2023 so far. Oh, there it is. Okay. The Peripheral. I don't know that. I know a ton of people that have watched The Peripheral, but I love that show. It has been so good, or it was so. The first season was fantastic. Um, I think season 2, season 1, I think it was actually in 2022, but I didn't watch it until 2023, so that's why it's on that list for me. But God, it was so good. I love any kind of show like that that kind of plays with time and time travel, space, any sci-fi thing like that. I really really like, and that one definitely fit the bill. Um, Poker Face, awesome as well. Um, Let me just adjust these lists a little bit. Okay, that's supposed to be gone. That's supposed to be Okay. Now, I like to do these based on their individual seasons because since I'm making these lists on year, my best shows of the year, I don't want to add just, Welcome to Flatch because then it's all those seasons, but it's really just season two that was this year. Um, Poker Face, I'd probably slot right behind Fleischman. Maybe I don't know. Toy with Abbott. Some of these sitcom, I don't know. I almost want to make different ones for sitcoms versus kind of these more intense shows. Because Shrinking. I think those are probably I don't know Shrinking. Man, those six right there are really really good. Um, been a good year. So I mean, I can't believe all of these have already happened in 2023. Some of them are started at the end of 2022 and kind of the fall window, and then um, have either run into 2023 or it's already March, so I guess it is pretty easy to have. I'm gonna put back up there. Um, Kaleidoscope is the more I think about it, the less I loved it, but it was good. Um, but man, I mean, even Jenny and Georgia, it's kind of mindless TV, but it's pretty good. White Lotus was great. I really I'm these six right here: Last of Us, Peripheral, Wednesday, Fleischman is in Trouble, Poker Face, and Shrinking are really six really strong shows that I'm confident that they'll kind of be some of the best shows of the year as the year goes on. There are a lot of good shows that are coming out that I haven't seen yet. I think that was on. I think I have a list. Okay, well we already kind of looked at those. These aren't Daisy Jones at the Six. I've actually heard a lot of people recently. I think that I guess just started lately, but a lot of people talking about that, how good it is. Extraordinary. I've been meaning to watch that. It kind of looks like a teen thing. Hunters. That's on Amazon, I believe. I need to check that out. Some of these haven't come out yet. White House Plumbers I think that's more of a docu-series. Succession season 4, cannot wait. It's the last thing he told me. That looks really good. Big, I don't know. There's a lot of good TV coming out. Ted Lasso, obviously, coming out pretty soon. So it's gonna be a good year for TV. I'm kind of excited, and very pleased with what's already happened. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. My son's waking up and it's time to go. Um, but yeah, that was just some thoughts on some TV shows I've been watching lately. I hope to just kind of hop on and chit chat, get some thoughts out of my brain on a more regular basis. I don't know. Maybe somebody will stop by. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just have the recording and kind of mess with that. It's fun to mess with OBS. This is actually a pretty insanely powerful tool. Good use for Canon R5 instead of just sitting over there. So that'll do it. Still working on a podcast, Pete's Peeves. I just turned it into this video session where I just kind of vent, but hope everybody is having a good week so far. It's Tuesday, kind of the most boring day of the week, but either way, I am Pete Brown. I appreciate anybody who is watching this. I am only doing this to have a little fun and occupy the little bit of time of day that I get while my son is napping, and see what can be done during that time that brings value to myself and to anybody that may be watching. But again, hope everybody's doing well. Hope that you have a good week, and see you next time. Peace. Orientation's weird, but all right, I'm out.